My name is Patrick Ko. I'm originally from Taipei. For the 2 years before I came to the program, I taught at the Taipei Fuxing private school, and I was a math teacher. I heard about the Clean Sting program a long time ago. Even when I was just starting my teaching career, my Japanese teacher in high school, who happened to be my advisor, was a Clean Sting fellow after I left high school. So I heard about it from him, and then my head of school at the time, I was teaching at the Fei School. He was in the heads program, so he also told me about it. So there were many people that I respect and that made a huge difference in my life that were involved as a fellow or in the heads program. And also another close colleague was in the Summer Institute. So I heard about it a long time ago, and then I decided to apply to the Summer Institute after my 4th year of teaching. And in that institute, that's when I was completely convinced that I want to do the year-long program. I came to the year-long program mainly because I wanted to reflect on my practice and to think about, in a broader scope, what my role as a teacher, my role as an aspiring school leader means. What surprised me is, I'm leaving with the most important piece is the people that I met here. It's the 31 other people that share a sense of wanting to serve, a sense of wanting to make changes in our schools and to contribute to the public good. So that was what was surprising. And certainly I reflect on my practice, but it was done with everybody. Oh, the most rewarding piece of the program academically for me personally is writing at a graduate school level. I have been an engineering student and an economics student in college, and frankly, I didn't write that much. And as an English learner who, learned English starting in junior high, I was always a little bit not very confident about my writing skills. But coming to Clean Sting and writing things I'm passionate about and really caring about conveying the messages I wanted to talk about, I became a much stronger writer. So being able to communicate via writing is probably the most rewarding piece for me academically. One of the most memorable project that we did this year was for Pearl's leadership class for our midterm. Well, I guess it's not a project, it's an assessment. We read a very, very difficult case study for a head. This head of school has to balance between the desires and needs of all the constituents around the school, and there's really no right answer. So I really wrestled with the question for about a week, and I kept changing my decision. And then at the end, I had to justify a very, very difficult decision. So what was very memorable and very meaningful for me is that I realized that in leadership, there are a lot of right versus right decisions. And I can't please everyone. But what kind of approach am I going to take? Am I going to be more utilitarian for the greater good, or am I going to be more principled? So that's tough. And it was very interesting to see hear about people's reasoning and have those conversations as well. Eventually, I took a route that I didn't think that I would take previously without some of the readings and assignments and classes that we have done this year. So I think I took a more difficult decision, a more political one, and I'm still wrestling with it. And that's an interesting thing because there was no right answer. My internship played a big part of this year's experience. I worked at the United Nations International School and worked closely with the Dean of Students we talked about we wanted to help reshape the mentoring program, or in other words, the advisory program. But what ended up happening was I was soaking things up in the Dean of Students office just as I was working there or sitting there. And the Dean, Mark, he was very, very open to talk about the issues at the current moments with me, and actually treated me as a partner in solving some of the problems. So he would ask me, like, this is what happened at school yesterday. There was this case how would you solve it? And then we'll talk about it. And then he would say, well, this is what I'm going to do. What do you think about that? So more than the more formal project that we did around advisory, I really felt like I got to step in the shoes of a school dean at a high school, at a complex school, and that was invaluable for me. The relationship that I built here, particularly with my classmates, it's just not possible if I were going along in my career. You know, we have the 32 of us, we come from different parts of the world. We're in different stages of our career. We come from very different schools. And so inevitably, like, those sharing are going to happen and those clashing of ideas and the sparks are going to happen. But it was all taken place at in environments that we are incredibly honest and it's very conducive to sharing. And to have that go on for 9 months is it's just above and beyond what could happen in conversations if I were to be in just working in schools. So I think that's the most important piece. And in terms of the heads, the conversation that we have here, it's really rare to have a really frank conversation with my own head when I was working in a school. So it was for me very interesting to gain insight into what's going on in their lives and how lonely they could be in leadership and how many tough decisions they have to face. And I really appreciate their how frank they were with us. I think the greatest issue for independent schools, both in the US and internationally, is this issue of financial sustainability. As the price, our tuition keep going up, how do we keep attracting students and how do we provide financial aid? How do we grow our endowment to help the school still be financially sustainable for the future? But I would say that also across the board, one big issue I see is how this independent school or in this type of education stay relevant. Because the schools can no longer be, how do we say, ivory towers or isolated in prestige or only serving one type of people. It's just not what the world is, and it's not what the world wants. So how do independent schools remain relevant? I think it's by finding ways to serve the public good. But I think many schools are struggling with how to achieve that. Having came from Taiwan, I taught in both a large private school in Taiwan and I've taught in boarding school in the States. I see a lot of similarities in terms of wanting to provide, the best type of education in a private setting to students, but how the curriculum or how the classroom activities are carried out are incredibly different. In Taiwan, it's much more the teacher-centered and it's delivering to a larger group of students, a classroom of 50 kids, and very different experience I had before at the boarding school setting in very small classrooms where oftentimes it's more student-centered. I think there are pluses that both sides can learn from each other. And how to merge if we call generally the Eastern practice and the Western practice and create something that takes the best part of both in this much more global world, much more interconnected world. I think it's a big part of my life's work because I'm a product of both and I've been a teacher of both. And how do I put them together is very, it's a big calling of mine. The cohort experience is so much fun. We do everything together, and I think by taking 11 classes together, we get the intellectual stimulation, and there's a lot to be said about being able to hear somebody's voice across all kinds of subjects, across all different stages of the year, and across their own personal development. So it's like listening to 31 other people and hearing their developments and how their ideas might be shaped or changed by each other. And that was probably the most unique part. Other than that, the social aspects are wonderful. You know, we're very, very supportive, open, adventurous, and just really loving. You know, so we are very, very privileged as adults to have gone through this cohort experience, and we leave. As we close, there's a sadness, almost like we have gone to summer camp, and this is an unbelievable, the most memorable camp experience ever. I would tell someone who's considering the program that if they are committed to being in education, even if you're not so sure if you're going to be in a particular school setting, come to Clean Instinct and let your minds be developed and open and changed by your cohort, by your professors, by this whole experience. And I would tell them that this is far more than a graduate school program to get a degree. You know, I think it's all the experiences combined is transformative.